was a gun.
I'm not voting.
If we want to build our nation.
The problem with the Somalians.
Just want to experience something else than a black man.
Move on, move
Can't be
forward.
like a horse with blinkers on.
Honestly say, I was about to have sex
Corrupt
and then I pulled
crap,
up.
but it's nice.
My name is Jeremy. I am a student at UCT. I'm 23 years old. I live in Mowbray and I study international relations. I'm doing an honours in international relations. And I've been in South Africa for about 3.5 years, and most of that has been Cape Town.
Hi there, my name is Megan Oberholzer. I'm 22 years old and I'm a third year acting student at ACT Cape Town, the Film Acting Academy.
Hi, my name's Gavin. I'm 22 years old. I'm originally from Durban. I've been staying in Cape Town for the past 2 years and I study a BCom part-time.
Hi, I'm Christine Hoffman. I'm 22 years old. I study journalism at UCT and now I'm just floating around.
Hi, my name is Laura. I'm 20 years old. I'm a fine arts student at UCT and I've been in Cape Town. I've lived here for 5 years, but I lived in Johannesburg originally.
I always wonder how different South Africa is in terms of what other people are going through around the world. I think there's, places, where there's North America or Europe or anywhere else, where there's as much instability or not. And it's always interesting to think about Cape Town as maybe a microcosm of what else is happening in the world. And it's always interesting to think, like, coming back here, it does seem a little more stable, even if it's going through the pits. It does seem a lot more stable than maybe some other places. So.
Yeah, I've spoken to a lot of people who have gone abroad and stayed there for a few years, and that's obviously different. Living there is different to actually going on holiday, because you live with the people, you experience the actual lifestyle. And so many people have always kind of found themselves coming back here and saying, like, the soul in Africa, there's just nothing like it anywhere else. Also, people that have immigrated, the same thing. They'll always say, like, this vibrancy, this kind of passion that Africa, and especially South Africa with our rich history, kind of embodies, is just something that people really miss when they leave here.
I've never left South Africa really, so it's been years staying here, and yeah, I feel like I can't really settle unless I've seen more of the world, and so I'm on the hunt to travel and leave and see more and then decide.
Well, I feel like we are in a state of like a lot of angst, political angst, and I think it's important that there is some antagonism, like, in a country, in order for us to find a solution to that, or a probable solution, and then try and move forward to something. Because if there isn't a spark of something that makes people unhappy, then there isn't going to be something that's going to, like, fix it in some way.
Yeah. Just jumping on you saying antagonisms over here, I was just thinking in terms of, like, the whole Feast Must Fall kind of movement, and there's The Fall, the play. I don't know if you guys have watched that, and it's pretty interesting in terms of how...
It's now in London.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
They got all these amazing awards and everything, and I think there's been a lot of things that maybe South Africa as a whole has exported or shown that it's willing to have these antagonisms, have some life over here, and it's been recognized elsewhere. So you might, like, in terms of protests and everything, I'd never seen a protest or been inside a protest until I got to Cape Town.
Politically, I don't know, for a long period of time, I was always like, rah, rah, DA, yes, follow my parents, this is what my mom... And now I'm starting to think that ANC probably is the only party that can lead this country. They just have to change, and people have to help them change, They are such a pivotal point in our freedom, and were huge. And I just think it's become so corrupted. But I don't know, slowly with time. EFF, I don't know, they're a bit radical for me. I don't know. Hectic. Yeah.
I think it's very intimidating, like, when I'm asked that question, what are you going to do politically for this you do feel like a little ant, like, you're like, what difference am I going to make?
So I've been studying politics a bit, and I'm always interested in like 3-party states or 4-party states, and I think your parliamentary system, your electoral system really works when you got 3 or 4 parties working. The EFF, I think, is definitely radical. You can look at its, like, recent history and say this is something that if it had power, I don't think would be comfortable with it, or it wouldn't be a good thing for South Africa necessarily. But at the same time, they have the power to hold the ANC to their own words in terms of talking about the Freedom Charter. And I think I've seen a lot of friends who are, I would say, white and from a income bracket vote strategically for EFF to give them that kind of platform. So it's always interesting, the strategic, like, who we decide to
balance
vote.
it out.
Yeah.
I mean, I've been in conversations with people that I study with, I act with, of color, and it's got a bit heated. And once there was a mediator, and I said, look, I really feel uncomfortable getting into these political, racial conversations because I always feel like it ends up somebody getting upset or someone getting flustered. And then Kezia, one of my fellow actors, she was like, well, of course we're going to get flustered. Of course we're going to. If your forefathers had been slaves and you've been told the stories throughout your childhood of your family being oppressed, of course you're gonna have hate inside you. You know, just because you've been affected, like your lineage, your heritage it's in you, it's ingrained in you. So there's this ingrained anger that's coming out in all these like splashes of violence, like burning the paintings at UCT, and you know, and looking at that objectively, no, that's not right. No, that's completely unacceptable. You can't burn art.
Especially just going back to white guilt as such, I think it's really fundamental that it does come up and that people aren't reluctant to engage in a conversation that's essentially that's going to become a full-blown argument, because that is all part of the steps of growth to getting South Africa to be a better place, to sort of wash away racism, because if we're never going to address it, it's really going to be difficult for all of us to get along with all of the issues.
Firstly, I think you have to really understand your place in this country and who you are and what you represent, and understand all the privilege that comes with it. And then, I don't know, build on that. It's the little daily things you do. It's the people you greet in the streets, and I don't know, it's that whole be the change you want to be in the world, you know?
Being a white person in this country, that I'm always very hesitant a lot of the time to get into those kind of conversations about politics, race, class. Very, very hesitant and anxious because I'm going to say the wrong thing, or it's going to be taken the wrong way. And actually wish my sister was here. She's in matric. She is the most outspoken, like, political, like, person. And it's so, and she gets into a lot of arguments and fights and a lot of Facebook fights with people in her school because she feels like she is being discriminated against as a white person, and instead of just kind of, you know, not saying anything and letting it slide, and because of the white guilt, she'll actually stand up and say, you know, this is not right, and what you're doing is not right. The way you're behaving, I feel like it's entitled. I feel, you know, she feels a lot of things, and I think I admire that because it opens conversation. And it's very evident that she's not a racist, because if she was a racist, she wouldn't be saying anything.
No, I think it's part of your own personal experience, and like Lara said, reverse racism. I mean, I must be honest, in my personal experience, I went to a school, I'm a born free, I'm born after 1995, and being in school in KwaZulu-Natal, I think majority, possibly even 50% of all the boys at my all-boys school were blacks, and I did, in my own personal experience a lot of racism against white people. And what could I call that? There was nothing for me to rather be than just act nonchalant and blasé about it and sort of ignore it. And even at my own workplace now, you know, what is it to say? Is it to say that it's racism or not? Right? What do you call that if there's a group of people at your work, and obviously they're people of color, and you can hear them talking, or you just feel that there's something that they're being racist in some way towards you, or they're making you feel uncomfortable or less or not part of the group, especially when you're outnumbered. What do you call that?
Don't you think that's more like maybe exclusionary because you don't understand a certain culture or a certain language, you might feel excluded? But do you feel particularly like oppressed in that situation? Because I feel like racism is more about feeling oppressed, and I don't know if you feel like your experience is oppressive.
I mean, I really don't even want to say some of the things, but for example, at the workplace, being called a white pig just for simply interacting with some of the staff. You know, I've never really in the restaurant that I'm at, back in the kitchen, just speaking to them, being really nice, and sometimes you feel like you're really trying to go out of your way to sort of be a part, and just, or not even going out of your way, you're just being yourself. And for something like that to happen, what do you call it? Yeah. You know, do you ignore it? Do you put your thick skin on and just remember, I've got white privilege, just forget about it. Is that the attitude that you just have to have?
But that is those things that you've been called, that is complete and utter racism. Like, I'm sorry, there's no other word for it, in my opinion.
What is one to do anyway? Because if you're supposed to just have a thick skin and reserve all your judgments and keep quiet, does that just intend bottle all the emotions up and the result is something disgusting? Or do you face it, do you talk about it, or does that just cause a lot of conflict and unnecessary distress?
I don't know, don't you, like, I'm not trying to, like, diminish your experience at all, because I feel like that is really rude and people shouldn't be calling, like, each other any names like that. But do you think maybe, like, you go into this one particular space and you experience these names in one particular space, but those people maybe experience those names every day in every space, and they've had to develop such a thick skin, and sometimes people have a way of outletting that anger in ways that aren't necessarily very nice, but that's their daily experience as people of color in this country. A lot of racism is inflicted on them constantly, and you maybe just feel like a tiny slice of that. So maybe that thick skin is just something that we have to put up with in our privilege.
I understand the white guilt, but if you feel it it will completely consume you. There are places where I worked and I'm at the back of the kitchen, you know, with staff, and I'm the only white person there, and I get completely overcome because I sit there and I'm like watching these people. I'm like, guys, how is this your salary? You can't survive like this. I can't survive like that. I'm 22. You have children. You have a family, and there comes a point where it's not. I don't know. It's not about the color. Yeah.
I think it's interesting to see now in terms of 20 years after apartheid and this whole talk about white guilt. And I think it's interesting. At UCT, there's a talk about the white liberal stereotype, the person who always tries to put it on their, on their badge of honor in that sense. But I think a lot of the conversations that need to be had about maybe positionality and stuff must never stop people from going out and trying to do things. Or you're always going to enter a situation and make a mistake. But I think a lot of times it's learning those mistakes. And I think maybe, whether it's white guilt, whether it's privilege or anything like that, there's a lot of people, I think, they get... They're more willing to not try because they've seen people being taken out.
No, I think it is. It is really easy to be consumed in like this guilt, and especially just like, if you have like an ounce of empathy in you, I think it's pretty natural to see someone going through something tough and just know that you're better off. And it has a lot to do with your skin color, and I think it can be really difficult to see that just every day, and it's very blatant in South Africa. Like, no, there's no covering it up. Like, it's although it's very like divided. Like, the city's very separate from the townships, but like, it's there and it's heavy.
My dream is to always be able to tell other people's stories, always do meaningful acting work, and give people voices that otherwise wouldn't be able to be heard.
My dream is to be a working artist and to be able to workshop with people who don't have access to the arts and to let them voice their own opinions in whatever medium suits them.
My dream is to have successful businesses that will hopefully make a change in the future of South Africa.
My dream is to be a good person and maybe help others be good too.
My dream is to find a combination of the two things I love, conservation and international relations, and I want to lead to a career where I represent my country in terms of climate change action.
Yazi, you should ever sit and talk with people, or else take a walk and create a straight talk. Talk what is nice, it will make you feel stronger. Listen what is right and say what is wrong. You should ever sit and talk with people, or else take a walk and create a straight talk. Talk what is nice, it will make you feel stronger. Listen what is right and say what is wrong.
It was a gun. Not voting.
If we want to build our nation,
The problem with the Somalians.
Just want to experience something else than a black man.
Move be like a horse with blinkers.
Honestly say, I was about to have sex and then I pulled
crap,
up.
but it's nice.
My name is Jeremy. I am a student at UCT. I'm 23 years old. I live in Mowbray and I study international relations. I'm doing an honours in international relations. And I've been in South Africa for about 3.5 years, and most of that has been Cape Town.
Hi there, my name is Megan Oberholzer. I'm 22 years old and I'm a third-year acting student at ACT Cape Town, the Film Acting Academy.
Hi, my name's Gavin. I'm 22 years old. I'm originally from Durban. I've been staying in Cape Town for the past 2 years, and I study a BCom part-time.
Hi, I'm Christine Hoffman. I'm 22 years old. I study journalism at UCT, and now I'm just floating around.
Hi, my name is Laura. I'm 20 years old. I'm a fine arts student at UCT, and I've been in Cape Town. I've lived here for 5 years, but I lived in Johannesburg originally.
I always wonder how different South Africa is in terms of what other people are going through around the world. I think there's, places, where there's North America or Europe or anywhere else, where there's as much instability or not. And it's always interesting to think about Cape Town as maybe a microcosm of what else is happening in the world. And it's always interesting to think, like, coming back here, it does seem a little more stable, even if it's going through the pits. It does seem a lot more stable than maybe some other places. So.
Yeah, I've spoken to a lot of people who have gone abroad and stayed there for a few years, and that's obviously different. Living there is different.